News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. It's time for our monthly update from Pike Off OTA, the group for Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, who do not believe we need so many turnpikes in this state of Oklahoma, and they have good reasons. In fact, tonight they're going to give us the top 10 reasons why the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and you can fill in the blank for yourself, should be boycotted by Santa, should receive coal in their stocking, get the Grinch Award, whatever you want to say. And as I'm thinking about this, Randy Carter is the Director of Strategic Communications. Tassie Hirschfeld is on the board of directors and is an anthropologist and a researcher of public corruption. They are both affected by the upcoming proposed Access Oklahoma turnpikes that are going to be accessing through Cleveland County. And they joined me this evening. You all, I kind of wanted to get the top 100 reasons, but we'll keep it at 10 if you all would like to. Welcome.
Absolutely. We've got there's many more reasons than 10, and as we talk about this, our list may expand a little bit. It's hard for it not to expand. There's so many things that are good reasons why they should get coal in their stocking instead of a nice, neatly wrapped present.
Well, you set this up so people that have no idea about Access Oklahoma can get a quick lesson about it.
Sure. Back in February of 2022, Governor Stitt announced at the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority official board meeting 3 new turnpikes that were going to come into Oklahoma and Cleveland County. They called it the Access Program, and you have very effectively called it the Excess Program for all this time. Those turnpikes we feel like are unnecessary, unwelcome, and completely beyond the scope of any reasonableness to be built in the first place.
And for good reason. Not that you don't like good roads, but that the turnpikes we have are not paying for themselves. Okay, keep going. I'll get out of your way.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, we've got a whole list of reasons. We're going to get into those, but I think your listeners might be interested to know that this past Thursday, that the Oklahoma Council of Bond Oversight just approved the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's application for a $1.5 billion, yes, that's billion-dollar bond issue on these unnecessary and unwanted turnpikes. And they have $500 million that they got an issuance on about a year ago this time that they still have in their coffers. So we're quite displeased about this, about the way, and the Council on Bond Oversight, we call it COBO, C-O-B-O is kind of their acronym that they go by. But COBO, we don't feel like COBO really did due diligence on the application that the Turnpike Authority put in. We have many reasons, and I mean, Tassie knows this much better than I do, but one of the things they did, Tassie, is they did not provide traffic and revenue studies on these projects that are required by their trust agreement. Is that correct?
Well, they did for last year's bond issue, but they haven't updated them. And so when the city of Norman unanimously voted, we don't want any of these turnpikes, they should have updated those numbers, because the traffic numbers would totally be revised if they don't have the on-ramps that would come from formal cooperation with the city of Norman.
Do you all tie the doubling of the turnpike fees, which is coming very soon? Plate pay already doubles it, but do you tie that to this?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
They are the worst. I mean, it's not technically an uncontrolled tax and spend, but it kind of is, because there are no limits on toll increases. They can get as much bond money as they want, and there is no cost control mechanism. So all of their cost overruns, all of it, they just pass on to drivers in the form of toll increases. They are not good stewards of money.
Okay, so is number one not good stewards of money?
But there you go.
Yeah.
They have not been good stewards of money. And another, and here's the reason that we can add on to that. I heard the director of the Turnpike Authority not too long ago. They've converted to this plate pay system where you just drive through and they read your license plate.
And it's double the cost. Yes.
Yes, it's double the cost of what your Pike pass would be, and also double what it was if you drove through the toll booth and handed them cash. But on top of all of that, he has admitted that they've only been able to collect 50% of the amount that they bill on the plate pay.
And they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to do this technology without really vetting it. So just another example of bad planning, bad judgment.
Is that something they're blaming on the Native American plates, though?
That is a factor in there. They've had that. That's been something that I believe the governor and the tribes have been trying to negotiate for quite some time. I was kind of pleased recently. I can't remember which tribe it was that came to an agreement with the governor and are going to be able to share that information. So that was a positive in their favor, obviously. But they do not have access to a number of the tribal tags, so therefore they cannot bill those tribal drivers that go through there with the tags. So that's just another reason that their plate pay collections are at 50%, which is horrible. I mean, that's horrible. If you're billing and getting 50% of what you bill, that's just going to mean toll increases across the board for quite some time.
So not good stewards of money has a lot of different parts.
Oh, absolutely. There are many subsets, so we can count these as a number of reasons that they should get coal in their stocking, and we'll be prepared to deliver that if they'd like. Santa can come through their plate pay chimney as opposed to the toll booth chimney. One of the things that, Tassie, tell them about this, the advertising money that they've spent.
Well, I mean, in one sense, it's sort of a small number given the bazillions of dollars that they keep demanding from bond issues. But just last month, they spent almost $30,000 on advertising and public relations. And really, why? What are they selling that they need to advertise to people? Everybody knows who they are and everybody hates them. And that doesn't really change when you spend thousands of dollars of toll money on a new advertisement.
Well, don't you remember a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2023, they spent nearly $500,000 on advertising, radio advertising on the Oklahoma State and the Tulsa University football broadcasts. Why in the world do you need to $500,000 to advertise roads? Absurd. That's just absolutely absurd to me. And that's another reason that they should get coal in their stocking.
And they get that green. Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, I just feel the need to give, I have trouble getting my head around how big $1 billion is. And so I want to put this, I'm translating it just so readers can understand just how much money that they're going to have to pay to drive on these roads. So if I gave you, I think, $10,000 every day, it would take 250 years or more for that to add up to $1 billion.
Oh my goodness.
So, right, this is just, we tend to think million and billion are close, but they're not. And so when they have this much money, it's only going to make these financial management problems worse, and drivers are going to pay the price.
If you gave me $10,000 a day, every day, it would take 250 years?
274. I just checked my notes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, we want to get this accurate.
But it's years. That's incredible.
Yes.
Well, and then if I remember, this goes along with the not good stewards of money, that they're so indebted right now, they're not really paying off any bonds that I'm aware of. They're just paying interest on bonds. Is that correct?
And yes. And the 2023 bond issue, I believe they don't make any principal payments for over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's the biggest interest-only period of any of their bond issues that we've been able to document. And it's so disturbing to me that, again, the Council on Bond Oversight, where is the oversight? Why does anyone think this is a good deal? And it's $1 billion that's now, I mean, again, as soon as those principal payments get close, they're just going to refund, and extend it further down the road.
So in addition to your 274 years, it's going to go beyond that.
Of course, it's eternal. That's the goal. And the banks benefit because they earn millions of dollars for every refunding or refinancing. And the financial advisor benefits, and
the underwriters
people in Oklahoma get poor.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're under the our top 10. We've done number 1, which is not good stewards of money. Of all the way they've been doing this, I don't know. I'm going to have to take a commercial break. Can you tantalize me? What if we have to switch topics? What would topic number 2 be?
Well, we could talk about toll increases specifically when we come back.
How they shortchange property owners when they seize property via eminent domain. That's very grinchy.
That's very grinchy. Okay, I am talking to Randy Carter and Tassie Hirschfeld, and they are with Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, or you might know them as Pike Off OTA. You can go to their Facebook page, which is also Pike Off or No More Turnpikes, and find out a lot more about what we're talking about. And I plan that we will talk about what has happened in Norman, where they're trying to build an east-west connector on, Indian Hills Road, with all those wonderful properties on both sides, including Toby Keith's is very close to that. We'll talk more about that when we come back. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. Talking with the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, Randy Carter, Tassie Hirschfeld. Then they are talking with us about Access Oklahoma. It's a program by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, who this is what I came up with. We were trying to do the top 10 reasons why Santa would be bringing coal for the stockings of the Turnpike Authority leaders, or why they would get the Grinch Award. And I came up with number 1, not good stewards of money. Number 2, they're not open nor authentic. So there you have all the good stuff. What do you all think about that?
Well, I mean, by the open, I think we've all struggled to get clear information out of the Turnpike Authority about their plans for the city of Norman. They have dissembled and evaded and avoided, and even, in my opinion, outright lied in some things. And so what that does to homeowners is it puts them under this cloud of uncertainty. And imagine how it would feel, especially near the holidays, knowing that as soon as this bond money is available to them, they're going to use it to dispossess you from your home. So for a lot of families in Norman, this is the last Christmas that they will spend in their current home, and they don't know where they're going to be this time next year.
Are you serious? So before it could happen that quickly?
They always move very aggressively to acquire property, and I will say that anybody who contests, who tries to challenge them, the taking of a property by the Turnpike Authority, they will drag it out in court for years. And in their most recent payment register, there are still legal fees for 2 properties that were taken in 2016 and 2017 for the Kickapoo. They are just tormenting these families who dare to challenge, in my opinion, lowball valuations are punished with eternal court cases that don't resolve.
Well, what happens is the Turnpike Authority comes in. They've already taken the property, and the homeowners are protesting the amount that they've offered them, and so that's tied up in court. So these homeowners are out of their property. They're out of their homes, but they don't have the money to repurchase something. The Turnpike Authority says equivalent. We think it's their lowball offers, and they seem to be that way. So these people are up the proverbial creek without a paddle,
Right. I mean, in some cases, the Turnpike Authority will issue a check, but in some cases, if the family actually used that money, they took that as consent for the taking of their property. So to have a stronger legal case, you have to not touch that money and say, I absolutely contest every part of this. But again, they can just drag it out for years, and it's so punitive. Like these families, even if they do get a settlement, which some do, and some of them are very generous, it's still the Turnpike Authority tries to make it not worthwhile to challenge the lowball offer, and often they succeed.
Well, let me ask you this, Tassie. Didn't we see one case in particular where the courts decided in favor of the homeowner and should have gotten the money?
$2 or $3 million.
But the Turnpike Authority then went back and appealed it, which kept it tied up in court, so they didn't get the money that they were adjudicated.
That's one of the ones that's still ongoing. And another one was a family that we sort of profiled for our documentary. I won't share their names, just I'm not sure how they feel about having their story on the radio, but OTA did a lot of damage to their property.
There is a documentary out there for people to see?
Well, not yet.
It hasn't been released yet.
But we have some very powerful footage that, again, OTA never wants to assess the human cost of what they're doing. And so that's one of the goals of putting this footage together is we want Oklahomans to know how much suffering comes about to individuals and families and communities from these, in my opinion, very aggressive land grabs to build roads that are not really necessary.
That we will not really benefit from in our lifetime. That's what I mean, if you drive the Kickapoo, you're alone. You know it? I mean, you feel like you have a private highway. And I cannot tell you the number of dollars I have saved since I am boycotting the turnpikes. I have saved so much money. Rick and I were talking about it. Hundreds of dollars, because you used to just hop on there. Yeah. Kilpatrick.
Well, and you don't know how many people tell me on a regular basis that they're boycotting the turnpikes because of this whole access fiasco. So
what I'm afraid of is this David and Goliath, and can you beat them is the question.
I don't know that we necessarily need to beat them. We need to work to come to an agreement that we all are in favor of, that doesn't cause this devastation to our communities and cause these. I mean, this basically, and you've heard me say it, here's another one of the reasons for coal in the stocking, and I've said this numerous times, only 3 of the 11 turnpikes that are in the system now make enough money to cover the expense of their maintenance and operations. And that's why they're trying to issue these new bonds, is to pay off the bonds they can't pay off now. This is kicking the can down the road to our children and our grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren.
You get great-grandchildren,
And you would think, and I've got to go to Fox News, but you would think that not having drinking water, because it could compromise the drinking water of Cleveland County, and why people don't pay attention to that, I do not know. They haven't done the environmental studies. So you all regroup while we catch up with Fox News, and we will rejoin Randy Carter and Tassie Hirschfeld. Why does the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority deserve coal in their stockings? Well, that's what we're talking about. And we hope that you will become an advocate as well. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert, talking to the Director of Strategic Communication for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, Randy Carter. He's joined by Tassie Hirschfeld, who is on the board of directors for this same organization. They joined me because we are figuring out, well, I don't think we're going to get all 10 in, the top 10 reasons why the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority should receive coal in their stockings, or the Grinch Award. Number 1, they're not good stewards of money. Number 2, they are not open nor are authentic to the people they are dealing with. In fact, the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation won a court judgment in the interest of open meetings laws, honesty, way back when. Number 3, they're not friendlies, they're bullies. And I'm going to go with number 4, they don't obey their own law. So what would you all like to say?
Well, I think something that is really quite interesting to me is when this program first came out, Access was first announced, they said it was going to be a $5 billion project. And granted, we did slow them down a little bit with the lawsuits and court cases and some other things, changing directors and that sort of business. But now, just recently, I believe it was this fall, they came out and said, no, it's not going to be just $5 billion. It's going to be $8 billion. That's a 60% increase, and they blamed it on inflation. Have we had a 60% rate of inflation in the last couple of years? I don't know who's doing their math, but that doesn't seem like it's right. The consumer price index hasn't gone up 60%, has it?
Not in my life.
You're making me add to the list, not good at math.
That sounds fair. That seems reasonable.
Well,
but if that's the 60, if they're going to raise the bill on this 60%, does that mean they're going to raise the toll rate 60%? But by the time these things are completed, it's already quite expensive to go from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. I don't know what that rate is. Plate pay is, and like you said, plate pay is double what the Pike Pass rate is.
And let's remind everyone that you all did your research, and then also they have admitted they do not collect all of the plate pay money. In fact, they only collect about half of the plate pay money, because how do you make people pay their bills? So, which is another part
well,
of
and that brings up another issue too. And Tassie can talk about this. She knows more about this than I do, but they have been sending out exorbitant fines and penalties when people don't pay their plate pay bills. And many of these people haven't even gotten them in the first place, and then they're fined. Tassie, this is your thing.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to see that their system doesn't work at any level. And one of the best indicators is if you look at Google and Yelp reviews, and these are not put up by us, by the way. These are, in many cases, people who don't live in Oklahoma that have gotten harassing calls from collections agents just for driving through Oklahoma for tolls that they actually paid in cash. And so, again, the number of complaints, there's just regular every month, there's new ones, and people complain of being cheated, of not being able to get hold of customer service representatives, of being overbilled, and then continuing to be overbilled even for charges they've paid. So again, part of this works well for consumers.
So if you all wanted to make a major point tonight, how do you stop a turnpike? How do you stop a turnpike? Do you want to stop turnpikes, or how do you make them less destructive?
Well, we obviously, last year when we filed the litigation, the goal was to stop it. And we had a very strong case, especially the case arguing that the route that they selected was never authorized by the state legislature. That's a strong legal case because all the evidence was on our side. But the Supreme Court ruled that it didn't matter. And so to me, that just is the problem is so much bigger than just us against the Turnpike Authority. It's what is going on at all of these other levels of government that the Turnpike Authority is always allowed to do whatever it wants, no matter how destructive. So if you look at like the Council of Bond Oversight, they should have rejected these bond issues because they're out of compliance with the trust agreement. Routes were never authorized. Citizens don't want this. The city doesn't want it. So why do they keep getting away with it? And until we understand that, it's sort of hard to know what kind of obstacle we can put up.
Randy, would you like to add to that?
I'm flustered by it. It's beyond my comprehension how they continue to keep I mean, you remember when the turnpike was first opened, they promised us in 40 years that was going to be paid off and it was going to become a free road.
Yes.
They've been telling people for a long time that the citizens of the state voted in a state question to authorize cross-pledging, which means they can take the revenues from one turnpike to pay for another turnpike. Well, our research has found out that that is not actually the case. It was never a part of the state question. It was decided by the legislature in kind of a backhanded way, from what I recall, understanding in some kind of legislation where it wasn't crystal clear or perfectly laid out for people to understand, but yet they're claiming that we, the citizens, asked for this, which really is not the case. And that's, more coal in their stocking, more Grinch awards. Sorry, I'm getting out of hand here.
Well, I really was hopeful, and I've got to take another break, but I was really hopeful when the Norman City Council listened to you all. You showed up, all of you in your red shirts. It was quite a statement if you saw it on the news. You showed up in your red shirts. You all stood up before them. You made a great case, and they voted not to go along with the Turnpike Authority as far as the access roads and all that stuff. But that's when now the plot thickens. We're going to use that as a tease. When we come back, we will ask Tassie and Randy from Pike Off OTA to explain to us what is happening now in the city of Norman. Are they holding strong and honoring the cautions, environmental studies, considerations? What is happening in the city of Norman right now? And what is it going to take for the citizens of Oklahoma to get their act together? The Gilcrease Turnpike, that's something. All the different turnpikes, when you know the stories behind them, you will be amazed. It is quite the Ponzi scheme, or from what I understand, that's what they say it looks like. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer-Lippert, talking to the Director of Strategic Communications, Randy Carter, and a member of the board, Tassie Hirschfeld, for Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. They are here tonight, and we're talking about the top reasons why the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority should get coal in their stocking. They should not be rewarded. They should not pass go. They should not collect $200. And why? Because according to the findings of my guests, they're not good stewards of money. They're not open nor authentic. They're not friendly, but bullies. They do not obey Oklahoma law. Somehow they manipulate it. They're not good at math, and they're not representative of the citizens. So what's the takeaway for us tonight, Randy and Tassie?
Well, one of the things you asked about just a minute ago was about the city of Norman and how they have failed or declined to go into an agreement with the Turnpike Authority by passing a resolution of cooperation. And the Turnpike Authority was really pushing for that for quite some time. And we couldn't quite figure out why until we came to realize that in order for, as I understand the law, in order for the Turnpike Authority to be able to put access roads, exit on and off ramps, any place other than on currently existing state highways that they cross, they had to have that resolution with the city of Norman or whatever municipality they go through in order to build those. And the city of Norman declining those, they had to change their plans and take out a bunch of these on-off ramps that they had proposed, and also the access roads, which again goes back to our point that changes the traffic and revenue picture, which they did not produce new studies to support the issuance of a bond that COBO approved. So does that make I mean, if I was a bondholder, I would certainly be suspicious. That I think that's going to have a major effect on their potential revenues, which has a major effect on their ability to repay the bonds. And of course, they're paying interest only, so I guess they're not really worried about repaying the bonds. They're just worried about paying the interest. But still, without that traffic count, we don't know if these bonds will pay themselves. Of course, and you remember Tassie telling you earlier, what was that number that they're going to be upside down?
Oh, in the billions. Revenue deficit on the East-West connectors, like 7 billion, or I don't have that number in front of me at the moment, but it's very high.
I think it was 7 to 8 billion. Yes.
Yeah.
So
that sounds right. Can you imagine they're building a project that's going to be $7 or $8 billion in the hole before they even get it finished?
And it seems like to me, and they're also going to build a 2-mile bridge across the South Canadian River, which will disrupt the watershed and all of that there. Can you believe we are thanking the Bureau of Reclamation, I believe it is, for protecting Lake Thunderbird, or they would have already, started acting on the north-south connector?
Well,
To be honest, I have a lot of concerns that the Bureau of Reclamation may fold under whatever pressure that the OTA puts on them. That was the situation with the Creek Turnpike in Tulsa, a lot of sensitive environmental areas, and they just built it anyway. And so I'm not feeling real optimistic that denial is going to hold, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
I hope you're wrong, because we need to do something. What do we do other than jump up and down on the radio,
Well, one of the things that we are doing is Friday was the deadline to have proposed legislation reserved, the title reserved, so that the wording can be fleshed out, and this legislation can be available for passage in the coming session, which starts in February. We've got a number of bills that we're working on that we hope will put some guardrails up on the Turnpike Authority and also slow some things down. Whether those will get heard, passed. Of course, you remember that we were able to override a governor's veto in a previous session that had to do with the Turnpike Authority's makeup of their board. So we are actively working with our state legislature to call their attention. And we got a bunch of new legislators as a result of the election in November. There's I believe 11 new senators, state senators for Oklahoma, and I don't remember the number of new representatives, but I think it's in the 20 or 30 number that we plan on educating to our point of view about the Turnpike Authority. And hopefully we can get some more legislation passed that will put some guardrails on the Turnpike Authority. I'm not going to specifically mention anything we've got going right now because we don't have the language fleshed out. But trust me, we are planning to do. We've got a number of bills that we think will help our cause, slow things down a little bit, and eventually maybe get these things. The access program, ideally, we would love to have it taken off the books.
Yes. And, I guess my sort of wrap-up statement would be it's very, very stressful for an entire community to live under the threat of eminent domain for this amount of time. So I think I just want to remind everybody, whether you're in the city of Norman or just listening in, it's really important to find some kind of joy or respite from all of this stress, especially during the holiday season. We are going to be back at it, working on legislation and all of these other things, fundraising, all of it. But it is stressful, and I just want everybody to know that Pike Off is here for you.
You are so sweet. Tell us how we find you and where we find you as far as Pike Off. Yes.
pikeoffota.com is our website, and this working on legislation and some of the other things that we're doing does take money, and we would greatly appreciate any contributions, and there's a way to do that on pikeoffota.com. There's a donate button on there. You can click on there. You can make a one-time contribution. You can make a monthly, whatever you want to do. We would greatly appreciate anything. It does cost money to work with the legislature, and we've produced lots of documents and information packets for legislators, and so far we've been having bake sales and fundraisers. I feel like a school teacher raising funds for classroom supplies. We're going up against some mighty powerful and highly moneyed organizations that are in favor of the turnpikes, which is their right to do, but it's our right to to protest, present our point of view, and try to encourage our legislators to come to our side and our opinion.
We also need to go back. Tassie, you made this point, I think, some time ago, that East Norman in the original master plan, not, and I understand the new plan is going to be out next year, was supposed to be homes with property with, what am I trying to say here?
10 acres.
10
zoning.
acres, right. It was supposed to be that east side of Norman would go untouched, and that the watershed would be. Yes, to protect the watershed. Yes. Families bought acreage. They did all of that knowing that it was going to be that. Have they redone the master plan about East Norman yet? Yes.
I believe they're working on something. I don't know specifically about that. We do have some people that are involved in that a little bit. But yes, they are working on a new document, and that's in flux.
They're still hoping to keep like the eastern edge zone 10 acres, but they're of course trying to encroach and move that different zoning barrier a little bit farther east and a little bit farther east. We're also concerned that they seem to be penciling in like a little industrial zone on the border with Noble.
Oh, no.
And
no.
they're trying to put in a big electric substation on there, but they won't tell anybody why.
Oh, right, right where the Rose Rock Sanctuary would be. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And the horny toads, yes, and the horn lizards, yes. All right.
Well, we've also heard some talk about some possible industrial complex or properties that they want to develop along the east-west connector, closer to the east side, near where it connects with the Kickapoo, or where it's supposed to connect with the Kickapoo.
Yeah, and in short, we don't have a lot of confidence that the city's being honest about what's going on with this planning process. A lot of this has been kind of behind the scenes, and there's all these, quiet conversations that the public's not part of. So we're watching and waiting to see what happens.
Well, I thank you both for your time, and Merry Christmas. Good point, Tassie. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and let's hope for a Christmas miracle. How about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gwin.
Again,
always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, Randy Carter, Tassie Hirschfeld. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.